Welcome along to another edition of the West Cork League podcast with me, your host, Ger McCarthy, and I'm delighted to be joined on the line by the West Cork League PRO, Mike Hennon. Mike, how are you?
Very good, Ger. Yourself?
I'm good, like yourself, but these are extraordinary times because of the COVID-19 virus, which the whole world now knows about and is following single day of the week. Ireland no different, unfortunately. It's a serious time and a worrying time for people, but I also think it's a time to keep people occupied when there's so little sport. So why not have a podcast and have a few laughs and a couple of chats about soccer, which is the reason people listen to this. I assume not to listen to me or to you, but to listen to the news about the West Cork League. These are, though, Mike, unprecedented times for the West Cork League, every soccer and sporting body in the country and beyond.
Absolutely, yeah. It's crazy times now at the moment. So I suppose it's events that we didn't think we'd see here, but yeah, it's crazy. I suppose we made a decision there a couple, early or late last week to postpone games until further notice, and it was a thing that we had to do really because look, it was a case of making sure that all our clubs, the players and management and reporters as well are safe and give everyone a chance to isolate themselves from big crowds. So yeah, it's very challenging times for everyone really. Challenging times for companies and people working as well. So yeah, look, it's great to be able to get on the podcast and have a chat about soccer and have a chat about how the league is going and have a bit of crack as well. I think was one thing we're missing, Ger, is we should have really got on John Leahy on it. He would have made self-isolation for a lot of people easier if we had him on the podcast tonight.
Yeah, well, we might do something about that next week. All right, if we're still isolated, as Mousy knows that I always get very nervous. There's a nervous laughter when he comes on. He's great crack. He knows his stuff. Knows his football. But the lawyers are listening, Mike. That's what I'm always telling him.
I know.
So look, we might get him on as a special guest next week to keep people's spirits up. But for now, let's actually talk about his club and the way the PremierHighSpecCars.com Premier Division looks at the moment. Unfortunately, I suppose just to let people know as well, Mike, sport is secondary to all of what's going on. People's health and people's livelihoods is more important than anything. But the chance, a bit of distraction, a chance to listen to a podcast about your favourite sport, I think that's equally important for people if they're feeling isolated, if they're feeling alone, or if they just want to get, as I said, distracted from what's going on around them. That's the only reason we're doing the podcast tonight, is to give you something to listen to and give you something to talk about.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And a lot of people are, be looking at social media and, it's dominated by COVID-19 and, that can cause a lot of people to get anxious and worried as well, so it's nice to get back to the norm here by having a podcast and talking about the league that we love and the sport that we love as well, so soccer and sport or whatever we're talking about, it's secondary to what's happening in the world now, but it's nice to get back and to get lads focused on soccer again.
Indeed it is, and we should also mention from the local newspapers, the Echo, the Southern Star and the Examiner here in Cork, all of those newspapers, although reduced in their sporting output, will continue to be published, will continue to go every day and once a week with the Southern Star, and it's important that people get out, if they can at all, open the newspaper, read about not just soccer but all the other sports. I know there's nothing going on at the moment, but there's an awful lot of people to interview, there's people to speak to, and one of the groups that I spoke to this week for the Southern Star, either this week or next week, Mike, I'm not too sure what week it's going to be in, I spoke to Helen Martin from the Bantry Bay Rovers Women's Sevens team. She was player coach this year, and Bantry Bay Rovers Women's, for those of you who don't know, we've covered them and all the other teams in the Lakehouse Beauty Room Sevens Women's Sevens League this year, hugely successful. And before I go any further, huge congrats to Enter Kenmare once again. We mentioned them last week, retaining their league title, Mike. Not an easy thing to do, and beating off Trina Rangers to do so.
Yeah, fantastic. We spoke about it last week. It was an absolute fantastic year for women's soccer. Ger Kenmare, another congratulations go to them for doing the double. And it's not over yet for them, They have a chance to win the cup again this year. But on Bantry Bay Rovers, as you were just saying there, they have a fantastic year throughout the club as a whole. Unbelievable work going on in the underage. Very, very active on social media. which is excellent. And the women's got their hands on the Shield last week, which is absolutely fantastic for them. They've had a tough season. Losing 4, winning 2 in the league. But a bonus to get their hands on the Shield, which will keep them motivated for next season again. But as we talk about Bantry, Bantry are a fantastic club altogether. They're, as we said, you've Don McGrath inside in Bantry. They're now doing absolute superb work underage, and the numbers are improving on a weekly basis over there. So fair play to everyone in Bantry. They're doing an absolute fantastic job, and on the women's scene, it's only going to get stronger in Bantry, I feel.
Indeed, and that's one of the things we touched on in the interview with Helen, because she's a very, very funny person, very, very forthright in her opinions, and she was delighted, obviously, as Bantry Bay were, to pick up a trophy at the end of the season, winning the Shield, defeating to a gallant Ulta Celtic. Great to see them involved in the final in their first year back. But the thing with Bantry Bay, she said, when they were struggling to field when it was 11-a-side. And as she said herself, they went for about a year. This is Helen Martin said herself, that they went about a year playing for Doris when I don't think they won a game, or she's pretty certain they didn't actually win a full game. So the opportunity to play 7-a-side and actually start winning games attracted back some of the regular players, but also a lot of new players that had never kicked the ball before or hadn't kicked the ball since primary school. And I think the camaraderie, and I think I just think the fact that it's 7-a-side, as she said, as Helen said, and it's played on Astro, you're guaranteed, your match is more than likely going to be on every week. And that was one of the things that killed the 11-a-side league, Mike, was that there's so many cancellations due to weather and other things. With the Astro, the game's on. It's 7-a-side. You have a great chance of getting a full game, and going from winning no games under the banner of Doris to winning a fair few games for Bay Rovers. They were delighted, and obviously fantastic for Bay to finish it off with the Shield.
Yeah, and I suppose when you have 11-a-side and you're playing on the grass pitches, we know the weather that we have here. It's close to impossible to have a clean run of games, and having a 7-a-side in AstroTurf has definitely been an unbelievable move with the West Cork League. I think it ensures games are played every week, and players are happy once they're playing games. Interest will always peak when they know that they have a fixture every week, so that's a massive benefit. To having the women's gone down to 7s to make sure that there is a game per week by the use of Astro. I suppose if you look at other leagues like the junior leagues, it's a pity that we don't have a full Astro pitch somewhere in West Cork, where we could be playing fixtures and teams would be a lot happier, fulfilling fixtures. And I think when it comes to soccer as well, Ger, I played GA for a long time, and one thing about the GA is that you don't really know when you're going to be playing games. But the beauty of soccer is that you have a fixture nearly every week, and I think that's a massive thing in West Cork soccer. Players know when they're going to be playing. They probably know in 5 weeks in advance who they're going to be playing. So it's a huge thing. And when it's in terms of Bantry and Doris, there's extra players after going over to Bantry now. On the women's scene, and I see for myself as well. I live up in Cork, but I always want to be involved in playing soccer with my local team, because it just brings you closer to home, to your to the guys that you grew up with and the guys you went to school with. So that's probably what's happening down in Bantry as well, Joe.
Indeed, and well said. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's the camaraderie, it's the competitive element of it. And if you get regular football, you'll get people turning up more regularly. Hopefully, when we get back out onto the pitch, as I said, we don't know when, but let's be positive when we get back out onto the pitches again in the West Cork League. I mean, that's the good thing too, Mike. People are going to be absolutely chomping at the bit to get back playing, not just soccer, but all their own favourite sports. And we might have a frenzy of people getting excited about the football and the build up to it when we know we're coming back out.
Yeah, well, I think we can see there from the likes of Spartak Moscow, they're bored already, Jerry. You saw that.
I can see that, yes.
Yeah, they're wondering will they get the cup already? But geez, I suppose we really should have thought them we can't risk giving them any cup now, because they'll probably have a big session in Newcestown, and we have to promote social distancing. So it's either Spartak gets it and they have a big party in Newcestown, or even worse, the Mizzen get it, and we know what kind of parties they have done in the Mizzen. So we'll have to wait.
Might have to do a live broadcast actually some night after the Beamish Cup from where the cup is, or maybe not actually, maybe a delayed recording. Yeah, they are nice thoughts, and as you said, for people who don't know, the Beamish Cup, we're down to the final four in that. The two semi-finals that we briefly spoke about last week, but two semi-finals, four very, very good teams, four teams that have played on and off some fantastic football this year. The Lyre and Clonakilty Town game, Lyre Rovers Clonakilty Town will be special, but equally so that Spartak Musgrove Dunmanway Town game. Out of those four, if there hadn't been the CV19 and we were heading towards those semi-finals and final, Mike, of those four in current form and what you've seen this year, who would you pick as the winner?
For me, it's hard to look beyond Dunmanway Town, to be honest with you, Ger. You know, winning the league last year, they have a superb team throughout the team. You know, very good goalkeeper. The back four is very good midfielders there in Reece Coakley, and now they're after bringing in Johnny Kelly from Toher and Caldale, you know, scoring goals. You know, you've got Stephen Cahan as well in centre half. They're a fantastic team. They have a new manager this year, a bit of a shake-up inside there. They look a bit fresh. So, you know, they have a tough game in the semi-final against a really, really tough and hungry Spartak Musgrove. It's going to be a tough battle for Dunmanway, but I just can't look beyond them this season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't argue with your logic there. However, Clonakilty Town, as you know and I know with Mousy, have been knocking on the door for the past 4 seasons. They've reached the semi-final on 3 occasions. They are one step away, I think, from getting to a cup final, and I think they would be a very, very dangerous team if they were to get there. Lyre, you just can't discount, because if Lyre have got their strongest team out with Gerard Barry at the middle of that, and they've got a lot of young players coming up this year now, popping up with some important goals, and they have that little bit of experience at the back, they've always been a very, very good cup team, Lyre, since I played with them and since I've watched them over the past couple of seasons. I don't argue with your logic about Dunmanway Town. I think they are probably the favourites, if there are favourites out of the four going into the semi-finals whenever they're played. But I just have a feeling this year, having watched Clontown, when they click, it doesn't always happen every Sunday, because they've got players missing here or there, just like all the other clubs. But the back four, those two at the back, Cian Crowley and Ian O'Driscoll, and I think the influx of the Clonakilty AFC players definitely has helped Clonakilty Town this year when they might have struggled for numbers in previous seasons. And there's a guy called Alan Ward. I asked the question earlier on, who's the best player in the West Cork League right now? Probably should have phrased it better and just said not much the best, but your favourite. He's up there for me because I've watched him a couple of times this year. He plays centre mid, he can play wing, he can play just off the strikers, and every time he gets on the ball, he's just that bit dangerous, and he creates things, he makes things happen for Clontown. And because of his form, and because, as I said, of the bolstering of the Clonakilty FC contingent, and this isn't me being biased, being from Clonakilty, I think, and Mosy's going to kill me for saying this, but I think this could be Clontown's year.
And you know, Ger, if Ballyhobber in the semi-final and I say two that I you slate me for it, like, you know.
Well, hang on.
You're only looking after your clan boys there now.
I also, as I said, played for Lyre many, many moons ago, and I could easily tip them. But no, this is me with my journalistic hat on. Logic states, like you said, that it should be Dunmanway, although I think Spartak are going to give them the fright of their lives. But I just think, for what I've just seen Clon, when they've clicked, as I said, Mike, when things are going well and they're knocking the ball around, they're a very, very good team to watch. I just think 3 times out of the last 4 years getting to the semi-finals, I think if they were to get to the final, I think the occasion and the whole lot of it, I think would carry them, irrespective of who they played in the final. And this is, of course, feeding beautifully into Tom Barry and Lyre Rovers pre-match team talk, and I know which is most going to hate me even more for, but no, I just think it's their year. That's all. It's just kind of a feeling.
Yeah, and look, to be honest with you, you know, Dunmanway Town is probably the easiest pick because they are on form and they have fantastic players and their scoring goals are fun, you know. But in saying that, I do agree with you in a way where if Clonakilty can get over Lyre, right? You know, I suppose when we won the Beamish Cup in 2009, we went to 2 semi-finals where we got beaten by Drina twice, and then we went to the third, and we got over Crossmahon, which would be Spartak Musgrove now, and we went on the third one. So, you know, if Clontown manage to get over Lyre, which will be a very, very tough battle, a local derby, and they get into the final, anything can happen. The Clan boys will be hungry. Mousey will be hungry. And Mousey will have them driven. They've beaten Dunman with Town already this year, I believe. If they got Spartak in a final, you can't write off Clontown. I do agree with you. If they get to the final, they will be hard stopped. I think we spoke about them last week as well. Sure, they're absolutely having a fantastic season. They're in the mix for the league. They're in the Parkway Cup final. They're in the semi-final of the Beamish Cup, as we're talking about here. So they're having a superb season. I played against them twice, or once this season, twice last season, and we just can't seem. We find it very, very tough to beat them. We can beat them away in St. Clan. No matter what we try, even if we're 3-0 up at half time, we still can't beat them. But they've got superb players like, as you said, Alan Ward there in the wing. They've got another fella there called Flash, is it?
Flash. Oh, Chris Collins. Chris Collins. Yeah,
superb player. Ian Driscoll there, centre half, probably one of the best centre halves in the game at the moment, in my opinion. He's scoring goals all over the place for Clan. So look, they have a super team. If they can keep the team together, which I believe they will, going into the Beamish Cup semi-final, you could be 100% right. They could be a very, very tough team, especially if they get into the final.
I'm going to have to edit the podcast before it goes out, because I'm just going to tell Mousey that you tipped Clontown and not me. But anyway, we'll move on. I mentioned there that Alan Ward is just one of the players that I've been impressed with this season. Is there anybody, both inside or outside Ballydehob, from your point of view, a player that you think has been in excellent form, and just a player that you enjoy watching for their skill set?
Yeah, I actually have three, right? The first fella is in my own place, and it's Mark Cronin. I think I just think he's getting older every year, but there's nothing stopping him. There's nothing slowing him down. I see him there for us this year, George, where he's single-handedly dragging us over the line. Even in the baddest of days, where it's just pure muck, he's still back around the middle of the field, winning the ball, getting up forward and scoring goals. He's outstanding. Without him, I don't know where we'd be. We'd probably be down Division 2. But he's just one fella that, if you ask me who's the best player around at the moment, he'd definitely be one of them, if not the main fella. Ger Callahan and Mizzen would be another fella there that I love watching. I think you were at the game against Baltimore in Skibbereen, and he's just got this natural stride about him where he just gets the ball. It doesn't even look like he's running fast, but he actually destroys people down the wing. Very, very good player to watch. And probably my favourite out of all of them in the league is probably Keith Jago and Drina. He's just one fella there that I've been playing against for years and years and years. Never say die attitude. Brilliant in defence, brilliant in the centre, and brilliant going forward. Very, very difficult man to mark, and he's always getting Drina over the line. So they're my three players, sure.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I'd say about that with Ger O'Callaghan as well, he's been Mr. Consistency. I think this year form isn't, because I've seen him. Their defense probably is the most important element of that team, with Daniel O'Callaghan at the back. They don't give anything away, if ever at all. But Ger is the kind of player. I saw him against Baltimore, as you said, in Skib that day. But I also saw him against Clontown. He's the guy that'll pick up the ball deep and either carry it, or he'll get that pass going, or he'll get them moving. A very, very good player, and a player definitely that deserves mention at the end of the season as one of the league's most consistent players. As for Mark Cronin, I mean, I'm writing about him. I don't know how, as long as he's playing, I'd say, Mike, and he is Mr. If you're talking about consistency, if you're talking about quality, his ability to deliver a dead ball, he has been hugely influential for Ballydehob. And the year he lost, I'm sorry to bring it up, but the league on spotters to Dunmanway, I really thought it was his year, and I thought it was your year. But I it's great, as you said. He's like a fine wine. You don't really care or realise what his age is, because he is so consistent with his performances, and he can drop deep, and he puts in his shifts when he's off the ball as well. In fairness, something you don't think he gets a lot of credit for. And again, there's so many good players in the league. I'm just thinking there, Barry O'Driscoll, the two Barry O'Driscolls actually in Drina have probably been the two most prominent players, along with Keith Jago, along with Rob Regan, the spine of that Drina team, JJ Collins at the back, Rob Oldham in goal. They've been at the spine of that Drina team over all their success over the past decade. Up front, Barry O'Driscoll, his goals, you know, what more can you say about the man? Every time he gets on the ball in the final third, he can either take a shot from distance or he can set up a teammate. Whilst the other Barry O'Driscoll at the back, I don't think gets enough credit because his ability to read the game, hold that back four line and play that offside trap, but also his distribution. It's a huge weapon for Drina. It's not usually spoken about, but his as I said, his distribution from the back is one of the reasons that Drina prompt a lot of their attacks. They've got a lot of experience. They've got a lot of young kids coming through, but those guys have been, as you know, at the coalface, along with Keith Jago, he just seems, he's like the Duracell bunny. He runs and runs and runs, box to box, puts himself about. And, you know, the league title, if it does come their way this year, it won't be like some of the newer players that will influence it. It's actually those guys that we've been talking about there. They're the guys that have driven Drina on yet again this season. So if they do manage to go on and win the league, it'll be a fantastic achievement, but even more so because of the lads aren't getting any younger. They're hitting, I don't know, I'm not even going to age them now because they'll come after me, but they are, as you said, like they're getting that bit older, but they just seem to, the level of performance doesn't seem to drop, and the league table doesn't lie. Look at the teams that are up near the top. And if I could mention one other player, as I mentioned him earlier on, and you did, like Ian O'Driscoll at the back for Clontown this year has been absolutely outstanding. He scored a few goals when they needed them. He's popped up them, and I think he's a player that we're going to be talking about quite a bit over the coming years. Obviously, with Doris, they're not enjoying the best of seasons, but they've got, is it Stephen Shannon? Is the striker? Yeah. A very, very important player for them. Anytime I've seen Doris, maybe you'd agree with me on that, he's been a hugely influential player for them too.
Yeah, and like, you know, you touched on something there as well, saying that some of these guys aren't getting younger, you know, and it's important. Like we look through the West Cork League. There's some superb factors. We've named some of them there. You know, there's some great goalkeepers there. Ronan Kennedy's a fantastic goalkeeper. Young Collins there in Baltimore is a good goalkeeper. You know, we've a lot of good goalkeepers in the league as well. But you know, we also have some older lads that are still playing soccer, right, that I think needs to be mentioned as well, Ger, because they're serious servants to the clubs and serious servants to the West Cork League. If you go through some of them there, we've Noel Jordan in Clontown, right, scored against us in a semi-final. He's like a fine wine. He's mostly secret weapon, this fella. You've got Colm Clary in Bunratty, still playing for them, you know, still leading the young guys in Bunratty. We all know what Colm Clary has done in the West Cork League for years and years and years. A serial goal scoring. He's still playing. We've got Joel Davis in Ballyhob. I think could be his 21st season playing. I'm not too sure. You know, he was centre half for Ballyhob for years and years and years. And when the club came looking for a goalkeeper, he put up his hand, and he's still playing. And of course, we already spoke about a player, Rob Regan. He's playing for a long time for Drina, and he's still in the middle of the park for them. We got Batty in Doris. He's playing centre half for Toigi. You know, Toigi has fierce time for him. He's a great organiser, keeps the young fellas in check. And probably the main fella we have to talk about is John Culnan from Mizzen. I think he's 43, Ger. I might be wrong, but
I think he's a bit more than that, but let's not even dwell on that because I'm glad you brought him up. Sorry, continue on. Yeah.
No. I said John will thank me for that. We'll say he's 43, right? But we can say I can remember there in the Baltimore game all the chances that the Mizzen missed in that game. But when John Conan got the ball and when he was coming 1-on-1 with the keeper, we both of us knew that he wasn't going to miss it, you know. Years of experience, and what a fantastic servant all these guys are for their own clubs in the West Cork League.
Very well said, and like it's just as you start talking about players, you know, other players spring to mind. If we could mention just Lyre Rovers as well, Gerard Barry. In the centre midfield, what a player! It keeps it so simple, keeps passing, keeps moving. Now they've got quite a lot of young players, as I said, coming through, and it's not been the easiest of seasons for them. But it might get in with silverware. They're still in with a shout of the Beamish Cup. Let's not forget. But I've watched Gerard come through the ranks of underage with Lyre Rovers, and I've seen him come up and play in the senior team. Not really aging myself, no, but he's just one of those players that you could put into any team in the Premier Division, and he would not. I mean, he'd enhance that team straight away just with his ability to keep a simple pass, keep it moving, and he's got a shot on him too every now and again. Don't know how many goals he's managed to knock in this year, but he's always been a mainstay there in good times and bad for Lyre. And also with Dunmanway Town, I think you'd probably agree with me on this, Mike. Like Stephen O'Donovan has been a colossus for them for so many years, and now they've added the likes. If you ask me, like, I love watching Dunmanway Town. Like I like watching all the West Cork League teams, but I love watching Dunmanway Town in full flight. Barry O'Donovan, Mark Buckley, Fionn Hurley, all these guys, when they're playing at full tilt on the counter attack, they're just so hard to stop, so hard to break down. And Stephen O'Donovan, as I mentioned as well, he's been there quite a long time. As you know, there's as experienced a spine to that team as there is in Drina and Ballyhob, and Dunmanway have proven it time and time again by winning trophies.
Yeah, well, first thing, I don't like seeing Dunmanway full speed because we usually get the end of it, and we usually lose. But no, look, Stephen O'Donovan there, the leader for Dunmanway Town, as you said, he's an unbelievable leader. Like, you know, delivered the league last year. You know, wouldn't write them off this year to bring it back home again. But he's definitely one player that, you know, has been there for years and years and years for Dunmanway. He's very, very consistent on the pitch. He's very level-headed. And, you know, he keeps the guys cool around him, you know, which you need as a captain. But absolutely fantastic player, Stephen. But, you know, when Stephen Cahan came in with him, you know, that and probably made him into even a better player, you know, with a good experienced player next to him. We all know Stephen Cahan. He would have captained the West Cork League in a number of occasions. You know, he's an absolute fantastic player, a leader as well. You know, very level-headed. But Stephen O'Donovan, you know, he knows the Dunmanway team inside out. He's been playing for years and years and years, and he is an outstanding player. There's no doubt about it.
Yep, that's it. That was a quick journey through some of the top players, and God, the players we've forgotten that we're going to be reminded of now, Mike, especially in your own club and my Clonagilty Town in Lyre as well. But look, we don't really have, obviously we don't have any fixtures to preview. We don't know when the West Cork League is returning. We don't know what's going to happen when it does. All we can say is that each week we're going to keep bringing the podcast to you. We'll come up with new topics to talk about. If there's anything you'd like to get involved with, hit us up on Twitter at Ger McCarthy 74. Remember, you can still read about the West Cork League and the West Cork Schoolboys League, even though there's not an awful lot going on in the Echo and the Southern Star over the coming weeks. And as I said, both Mike and I will be more than happy to keep bringing you a podcast, maybe a few special guests as time goes on as well, that we mentioned earlier on, just to keep the talk, keep the banter, keep it all going, because we don't know when we're coming back, but we know we are coming back, and that's the thing to remember. And when we do come back, what an end of the season we've got to look forward to. So keep that in mind, and hopefully we'll be talking about results and goal scorers and league tables and permutations sooner rather than later. Listen, Mike, thanks very much for making yourself available for selection tonight.
No problem, Ger. Thanks a million.
And thank you for listening. And as I said, we'll keep the podcast coming week on week, all the way through the CV virus and whenever it ends. And remember, until then, if you'd like to get in touch, just hit me up on Twitter at Ger McCarthy 74. Any topics you'd like to discuss, or if you'd like to come on and talk to us here on the podcast, we'd be more than happy to have you on. Until the next time, take care.